Hello everyone, Luke here. Now before we get into Dr. Stone this week, I just want to make a very quick announcement. I have seen the little chapter that came up, well I shouldn't say little chapter because it was a full chapter, the new chapter of Promised Neverland that came out, the one that focused on the past from Ray's perspective, like basically what Ray was thinking during the time when he found out about what was going on and all the horrors that were happening. I have read that, and that will get a full review at some point. My initial thoughts on it were I enjoyed it. I thought it was really well handled, and I thought it gave a bit more insight into Ray and how he became the way he did, and how cold-hearted and distance he became from everyone. I really liked that chapter, so that'll get a proper review at some point. But for now, let's just get into Dr. Stone, because this week it's the climax of the New American City arc. Alright, so this week chapter 169 titled Risk of Hearts. Now, my initial thoughts were I was completely shocked about how this arc went quicker. I thought it was going to be longer than Treasure Island, although Treasure Island was a massive step for the series of just how insanely long that chapter, and it wasn't even that long of an arc. It was only like about 38 chapters, and this arc has been like 30 chapters, so yeah, it's pretty much the second longest arc of the series. But from this point on, I expect the arc to be around the same length of Treasure Island, maybe a little bit longer. But anyway, getting into the chapter itself, we have a nice colour page here of Senku and Dr. Sino. Just basically, we have Senku at the forefront, and then Dr. Sino behind him, and then the moon behind, them. And I love that because it gives like precedent to their carousel. They're like two sides of the same coin, essentially. Now, also as well, to go off on a bit of a tangent, I did watch Tekken's video on what happened before this chapter came out, and it seems like all the issues he had with that chapter, with like what was leading up to this chapter, have been addressed in this chapter. So that's pretty amazing how that's actually come about. But anyway, moving into the chapter properly, it starts off with Senku saying, "Take your mountains of corn, make a crazy amount of dry food, and wake up 1,000,000 people." And we have again going, "Dear Senku, 1,000,000, really?" And yeah, that's kind of important for Stickgen to actually say something like that, because if to make up 1,000,000 people, it's going to be kind of impossible for all of them to like actually get to know everyone, and they're just going to assume like, oh, you're part of Corn City, and there's probably going to be, I wouldn't be surprised if they came back to Corn City and there were like riots going around, and civil wars happening in the case of what happened with Tsukasa and the Kingdom of Science. But anyway, Senku goes on to say, "If our goal's the moon, then we desire a massive labour force. Am I wrong?" And I love that rebuttal, because again, he's not wrong, because to build a spaceship, it's going to require a lot of manpower, and it's going to require a lot of smart people as well to actually get the components, to actually get the spaceship, to get to the moon, to find out exactly what the Y-Man actually is. But anyway, as Brody is sweating profusely, we have Suiko off to the side, who gives a really genuine question here, because I don't think this is something pretty much that they've done before, but never on this scale. She asks the question, does this mean that we're going to say goodbye to our friends in Corn City? And I love the fact that she actually brought that up, because again, it's, even though they've left people behind in Japan, this is a bigger deal, because they're leaving them pretty much in the hands of the enemy rather than in the hands of allies. And it's a pretty big step forward for her to actually learn herself that yes, sometimes you do have to leave people behind, and they're going to be in dangerous situations, but it's for the best, it's for the great good of everyone. And I kind of like that, like she kind of has to learn that. And I love that they're still taking Suiko on to South America, because the more that she can learn and develop, I think she'll become much more intelligent and much more of a necessity to Senku when she actually grows up a little bit. And again, this is something as well, because it means leaving behind Yusuriya, and this is something that a lot of people will bring it up as well, in regards to Taiju actually getting to say a proper goodbye to her, because we don't know if they're actually going to see each other again. And it's very reminiscent of what happened with Senku and Taiju and Yusuriya at the beginning of the series, and the fact that now it's Taiju and Senku leaving behind Yusuriya, that's kind of a big deal for his character as well. And I love that they're actually addressing that point as well. But Senku goes on to say, "We've got no time to lose before moving on. I need my Corn City people to conduct the Japan-US Leadership Summit." And then basically my favorite point in the chapter is again bringing up the actual language barrier as well, which when we get to South America, because spoiler alert, they are going to South America. That's the next point, because it's connected to North America, and also it's the place they were originally going to, and they have to get there to get the super alloy for the spaceship itself. But anyway, they go on. But anyway, we have so many of the people go, including Yo, Magma, Yusuria, Miami, and Nikki, basically going, meaning what? We've got to finish up this deal. We can't even speak the same language. Who can speak English? I can speak a little bit. I can speak English because I was a reporter. I had to learn English. I can speak a broken English. I love that point. And this when we get Miami speaking in English to Brody, going, "First, our main request: guarantee the safety of everyone here." And Brody, his response is just, "So you're the Japanese president. Don't get the wrong idea. We're in charge here, and we've got the strength to back it up." And then we get Nikki coming in and going, "Shut up! Quit yapping your units, these freaking ropes, and it's not just mine, it's everyone's." And Brody's like, "Sure, that can come later, but first you're going to tell me the secret behind making that refined fruit." So, and she's like, "I said no. Now go and get your colonies, stuff you in yours. You'll go. We're coming freaking far, you like, so you can shove it." I love that. That's pretty much the only response you have at this point, because if you have the enemy who's basically got you surrounded, the only way you can do that at that point is just basically shout until they're like, okay, you win here. So basically that was one of the issues that Tekken had in his video, like, what's to stop Brody from actually saying no to all of this? And Brody even actually said, like, yeah, you guys aren't in charge, we're the ones in charge here. But basically Nikki's will basically overpowered him. Nikki goes on to explain the situation, and she mentions that their friends are battling out there, and they're supposed to play nice and revive 1 million people in Corn City, and that's where their interests align. If you're willing to offer your hand, I swear I'll shake on it. Our civil agreements are our only operation here. Get it? And Brody just completely laughs at this point, and he's like, "Okay, I'm on board with you. I like you, young lady. You've got spirit. As professional president, let's settle this. Let's seal this friendly deal." And again, this is what I love about Brody, is the fact that he's more of a guy who's like, if I can avoid violence, I'm gonna avoid it, and I can come to a more civil agreement here. He's one of those guys that you can actually sit down and have a conversation with without him being basically like a big brute. It's like, well, we're in charge, so we've got the muscle, so we can't, so you can't do anything to us. So screw you guys. It's gonna be like, no. He's going to be like, no, I guess our interests do align. I want to get people back. You guys want to get people back. So yeah, I think we can make some big deal here. And we see the deal being sealed, which is until they bring back Dr. Sinu, Corn City will be a sanctuary where they will revive 1 million people. And we see just like a press conference going on, just like this imaginary press conference where we have Nikki basically assuming the role of the leader of the Kingdom of Science, when basically Senku and everyone else is away. She's basically the Madam President of the Kingdom of Science, and she's seen the deal with Brody, who's sort of like taking over the role of Sinu's forces. And we see Kimru there and Miami. Now, one thing I will say is that I'm disappointed that they're leaving behind Kimru, because he wasn't in my top 10 characters, but at the same time he was definitely in my top 20, and it's a shame that he's being left behind. But at the same time, I kind of get why he's being left behind, because you need those kind of muscle people to kind of keep the other muscle people from Cena's forces at bay. So it's kind of like a stalemate. It's like, okay, we've got to work together. We've got a bigger problem than actually fighting between us, because if we all fight and we all start killing each other, then the whole human race is doomed, basically. As everyone starts celebrating, we get Brody saying what everyone else was thinking when the last chapter came out. You got that greenhorn? It's Senku, right? We know you've got Dr. Sino, and we know you're feeling, but none of us can stop Stanley. As he starts thinking to himself, they must be going down the river, so they're bound to pass their boat and Stanley. How are they going to make it? How are they going to make it to the ocean? Like, he's questioning this, and we see Senku just giving the smug ass grin that he always has, and Stanley we see a different side to Stanley right now, because up until this point, Stanley's always been someone who's been calm and collective and being like, I can do this. I know I can do this. We see him getting pissed off at this point, basically a first race character, and this actually makes him, in my opinion, a much more scary threat at that point, because for someone to always be in that calm, collective control, right, to lose their cool at this, that's going to be something that's going to be a huge problem to deal with, because if push comes to shove and he's backed into a corner, or he's one of his plans actually fails, that's probably going to get him a little bit ticked off, and who knows what he's going to do now. Obviously, from this chapter, he's going to be following down to South America, because he'll probably want to get Senku back, because he's his friend, boyfriend, whatever relationship him and Senku has. But more importantly, he's going to be like fixated on like, I'm going to chase down, I'm going to get back Senku, and I'm going to kill these guys for kidnapping him. Basically, that's probably what's going through Stanley's mind now. But he's more concerned with the fact that Senku, how are you alive? And that's the thing that's irking. Like, I was so sure that I killed you. I was damn certain I killed you, and you're not dead. Right, I'm going to make sure that my mission's complete once and for all. As Stanley sees them coming upstream on Senku's yacht, he immediately springs into action by grabbing one of his comrades' guns and basically firing at them. But of course, Senku, Ryusui, Gen, and everyone, they already have something in mind as they throw the Medusa into the sky. And this is where we get everyone of the Kingdom of Science who's going to be left behind. They get them seeing them, and they're like, the Medusa. And then we get Homero. So okay, party jams. In case you were wondering where Homero is, there she is, right there. She's there on the ship. You've got your answer right there and there. And also, I just want to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. Party Jams basically mentioned that what Senku is actually doing now is basically what Korra did at the end of The Legend of Korra. If you remember from The Legend of Korra, where he had Baatar Jr. and Kufira, who were the antagonists in Season 4, Kufira was basically saying like, okay, we can't stop Kufira, but we know what we can do. We can kidnap you and take you to the ends of the earth. You will never see Kufira again. And basically that was the way that Baatar was like, okay, I don't want to be separated from Kufira, so I'll basically listen to what you have. This is basically similar to what Stanley and to basically what Senku's doing with Dr. Senku and Shadow, who's another member of the Control Chaos community on Discord. She said, "I guess Senku gives less of a shit though. I assume that because she still hasn't watched Korra." And yeah, she is correct. Korra made it a big deal at that point. But Senku's like doesn't care about that point, and actually his plan's actually working, like stealing Senior away, because I feel like as well, if they can get Stanley away from their forces, then not away from their forces that are being left behind in Corn City, then basically Corn City can actually flourish at that point, because Stanley won't be around to basically say, no, I am not dealing with this, I'm going to kill everyone. But by actually having Dr. Senku and kidnapping him and taking him to South America, that's going to pursue Stanley to follow that front, because I feel like he values Senku above everything else. So it's like, okay, as much as I want to deal with these guys, I've got to get Senku back. That's basically what Stanley's motif is at this point. And we'll see where this goes, whether Stanley is going to be the sole antagonist of the South America arc coming up, or whether there's going to be another antagonist. It's still going to be a secondary antagonist, like a force that's always following them. We'll just have to wait and see. As everyone is figuring out the plan of what they're going to do with the when they see the petrification weapon, they go, "Eek, the petra beam is coming! Run for your lives!" And everyone is just going crazy of whether or not this beam is actually going to petrify them, particularly from the American city civilians. As Stanley decides, screw this, I'm going to shoot this, and the Medusa falls to the bottom of the ocean after Stanley realizes, okay, that is not working, but that leaves them that leaves Senku and his group an opening to get past Stanley. As Stanley goes, yeah, okay, I get it. And he flashes back to what Gen was actually saying when Yukio sent over the petrification weapon. Stanley's like, not bad at all. It was just a bluff, and I love that, not for the fact that they used the Medusa as a way to get past Stanley, but the fact that now that the Medusa is pretty much gone at this point, they can't rely that on a crux for basically dealing with the antagonists of an arc, because you always have to think like, if they really want to deal with all the antagonists of the series. Now I know the Medusa's out of battery, but they could easily like study that and figure like, okay, what battery do we need, and actually recharge it. But now that it's gone, now that it's at the bottom of the ocean, they can't rely that on anyone. They'll probably have to use other tactics and other situations to actually get rid of the antagonists, or at least deal with them, so that they're no longer a threat in the arcs coming up, and they can't rely on the Medusa in the same way that they relied on the Medusa to petrify Ibarra, or use it as sort of like a crux to actually get the enemy to stall for a bit, like they did in the American City arc. They can't rely on that anymore, and I love that they've actually addressed that point. Although some people are going to be a little bit disappointed that Senku never really actually got to study it, but I feel like that's for the best, because Senku's probably going to be probably going to have more Medusas than ever to study when he gets to the moon. As everyone is celebrating that the team that are going to South America have made it past the ship, Yusufia goes, they got past, they're gonna, and Kimu's like, they're gonna make it to South America, and this is where we get the emotional goodbye from everyone, as Chrome is like going, come on, we've got to say goodbye, and Yuki's like, careful, and Hyoga says, if you go out onto deck to say farewell, you'll be putting our target on your head. Is saying goodbye worth it? And Chrome is like, Chrome, Taiju, and Yusui are like, yeah, it's worth the risk, and they're like, you bet. See you, as we get them all doing the same pose, like the same, basically holding your hand up to say like, this is goodbye for now, but we are going to return in the same way that the Straw Hats did with Vivi at the end of Alabasta, and the same way that Taiju, Yusuvia, and Senku did it at the end of the prologue of the series. That this is their way of saying, this is goodbye for now, but we will see each other again, which I feel like they are going to come back after they've dealt with South America. They're going to come back to Corn City to get some more other people to go over to Europe, because I feel like Math City is going to be the arc after the South America arc, and since they're in North America now, it'll be more easy to actually go from the Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean from North America to Europe or England or wherever Math City is actually going to take place, because we know the South America arc, that's going to take place in Brazil based on the last panel of this chapter. So it'll be interesting to see where actually Math City will take place. And this goodbye is not only important for them to actually say, but it's also basically being used as a distraction, because everyone's got their hands up like this, that they're actually blocking Stanley's view, so he can't actually get a clear shot. So it's like, yes, Stanley, you are going to have to actually chase them now. You can't use his snipering now. They're like, it's basically like at the end of the fight with Yugi and Pegasus, when the Pharaoh was on his own and Yugi's friends were basically blocking Pegasus' mind. It's basically like that. So yeah, Stanley, you're going to have to chase them if you actually want to get Senku back. It's not going to be an easy walk in the park for you. Anyway, Taiju goes on to say, we'll meet again. Without a doubt, we're going to build cities all around the world. And Senku's like, going forward, we're going to be playing keep away with Stanley and his people as we voyage around the globe. As we see a brief shot of Senku's eyes now, we don't know exactly what that means, but my guess is like, it's probably thinking like, oh my god, I'm going to have to deal with these people. Well, I guess we've got to work together until Stanley can get me back. As we get Ryuzui ending out chats by saying, damn right, and our next destination is South America, the place where it all started thousands of years ago, the origin of the petrification beam that turned humanity to stone, and that's where the chapter ends now. Obviously from the panel here, you can actually see that it's probably gonna take place in Brazil, possibly Rio de Janeiro, the capital of Brazil, and that would be and I'm just going to say my thoughts now. Okay, pretty good chapter to round out the arc, a pretty good climax, and we obviously know where the next destination goes, which is probably what everyone expected. I expected it to be South America, given how they're in North America and they've got to go to South America to get the super alloy. Now, my big thing is that who would be the villain of the next arc? Now, obviously, we had Tina, who was a psychotic scientist, and we had Stanley, who was like a psychotic military warrior. My guess is that I would want someone who's basically a anti-science person. Like, basically, you get all those people who are like scared of like basically listening to doctors. I want someone to be like that, like be the villain of that arc, who's basically not interested in science, doesn't want any science where they are, and they're completely paranoid of what science actually did, because possibly they were at the statue, they were at the Jesus statue in Rio de Janeiro where the petrification beam happened, and they're probably completely paranoid of basically doing anything science related, because that, in their mind, that was probably something that was going against what God actually wanted. So I'd love that if that's the villain of the arc, like just someone who's completely paranoid about science and everything, and basically not wanting anything to do with Senku, and Senku has to actually try and convince them that no, we're doing this for the greater good of mankind, to actually get everyone back. But anyway, that's for next time, and like I said, moving on to a new arc after this chapter, and yeah, can't wait to get into that. So anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz, and this will be Lash Luke signing off. Later, guys.